Hey guys, this is Redera. So I'm here with like the latest version of just like my Warcraft model editor guy, right? And I was thinking to myself about like, what if somebody's asking me, what if we want to take a texture? So like here's like ballista.blp. So you can choose to open like different files here, right? I'm gonna choose to open a BLP. We open this ballista.blp, and as you can see, I've been building this to try to be basically similar to Magos in a lot of ways. So this gives us basically a blank model file we can view that just shows us that particular texture. So if I do this, and you'd get the same effect in Magos, right? If I save this as a model, and I'm like, all right, ballista text model or something, right? It's like a model of the ballista texture, right? And we can open that, right? That's like a valid like model file. Now it's an MDX, or you could save it as MDL. It would be the same. And somebody's asking me, well, okay, now I have this model, right? But if I put that in the world editor, let's do it. Let's put that in the world editor. There's a couple issues. So first, all right, I got to get to this other folder. Sorry, we go to the other folder here. So let's get this ballista, and I think it needs the texture actually, because when I made this model file, it was made where it's just like in the same folder. It's looking for like ballista with no path, not ballista in like the game texture path. So let's save this map as just like a ballista text test map, right? Ballista test. So like here's this map, right? So I do this process where I save this as like a model file. And let's say maybe I want to make an item. We're going to make Illyria's flute. We're going to make a custom flute that uses this ballista test model, right? And this totally works, that you can put this model in the game, and this is kind of what somebody did. And so he's asking me now, he's like, all right, so I made this model file that clearly is a model. You can put it in Warcraft of a particular texture. And this model has on it already, it has an alpha channel, right? Like if I put a footman behind it, you can see the footman through it at the portions that you would intend to be team color. Now I don't actually know if Magos does that the exact same way, but let's find out, right? Just for the sake of example. So if I'm in here and I open ballista.blp and I save this, let's see if Magos creates it the same way or if they create it different. So we're just going to call this ballista.blp.magos.mdx, and that way I'll be able to sort of import that in here. We can compare. I'm not actually sure if my software and Magos are exactly the same on this, but needless to say, I'm sure they're going to be very, very similar. So let's make another one of these, like, little items that just kind of gives us the ability to view this thing. So it looks like Magos's is a little bit bigger, and I think it looks like it intersects the ground. These are just, sort of nothing differences that arise as a result of things that are happening. And you'll notice also, so like Magos's he doesn't inherently do the see-through portions of the texture, right? So he's showing them as filled in. And this is a setting in the model file, right? This is not a setting in the texture. So admittedly, like I didn't import two texture files, right? This is the same exact texture file, but one of these models has from my program, just because purely by happenstance of which setting I happen to put the model in when I generate this example model. Mine is generating with see-through portions, and the Magos one is generating without. Now, in my program, this would mean that if I select this thing and I right-click and say split geoset and add team color, that I think that should give us, it doesn't look like it worked. What it's supposed to do then is basically give us a version of the geoset that actually has the player color enabled, which doesn't seem to be working today. Now, I don't know if that's because something about maybe I need to open the model as a model, if there's some kind of bug in my stuff there. But the theory was that it's supposed to be there. So like we open this, split and add team color. Yeah, okay, so there's some kind of issue, apparently, that's really odd with the generated model file, that it only works if you open the model. This is why I haven't published my software yet, things like this, right? Where you just get really weird issues. I think somebody showed me this once before, where when that kind of thing happens, sometimes you get stuff you can't delete, or I guess you can delete this today, but there's some kind of like loading issue because the model was just generated on the fly and wasn't from a file. But the theory is, right, that you could open this file and you could do that. And we could probably do that also to the one generated by Magos. But the problem is, if we do that, okay, it looks like that even works on the one for Magos in this program. But the theory behind this is that I'm actually editing the model and just making a separate copy. So if we go open recent and we open back this one that doesn't have, in fact, let's even open the one from Magos that doesn't have this. Suppose that you don't have my program, right? I mean, this is not magic, so I don't want to I'm not in the business of giving you the impression that you can't do this without something that you don't have. So if I save this as Ballista BLP Magos modify MDL, so like I'm just making some file, right? So we make this file. Now you got to get to that models folder. Ballista Magos modify. This is the thing. If you save as MDL, right, it's a text file. So this is how I learned to make my program. This is how you do it. This is how I did it for the past 15 years. It was not my split geoset team color button, right? So if I just open up Notepad, which is admittedly lagging, here we go. This Ballista. Now this is something else. This actually references the entire file path. I'm amazed that that works, but apparently it does. That probably means if I sent you this model, it wouldn't work. So if you have a model like this, this is incredibly dangerous. First off, don't do this, okay? Delete that. It needs to be a path relative to your map file, not relative to C:. That's completely ridiculous. Let me check if the one generated by, now I'm really curious. Does the one generated by mine do that? If I open my, okay, I guess I changed the model. Here we go, Ballista text model. So this is the one generated by me. Ballista text model dot modify dot me. Okay, we'll just save that. Unlike Magos, if I save where it's .mdx and I'm in MDL mode, mine automatically changes it. Yeah, okay. So my program does this correctly. Oh my gosh, what Magos did there. So your model's not going to work if you send it to someone, right? Like, look at this. Let's save this map. This is my point. This is my point, and this is completely ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to save this map, and I'm going to close the map. And now I'm going to go to my models folder where I have ballista.blp, and we're going to call it ballista nope. Then I'm going to change that file. And now I'm going to open this map, and I think the one from Magos isn't going to work because it was actually loading that file on my hard drive and not the file I imported in the map. I'm really curious if that's true. Yeah, that the Magos one stops working. That's completely terrible. Why would someone tell you to do that then? Okay, anyway, so that aside, as soon as you get your model open in a text format, judging by the fact that I haven't published my stuff and you probably don't have a button to just click to do like I showed you, you want to delete that path off of there. Like otherwise, this file is going to work fine on your computer, and you're going to send it to someone else on their computer, and it won't work. And you're not going to know why unless you like look at this and you understand this and you fix the C: path added by Magos. That's completely ridiculous. All right. So now that we have aside that that's ridiculous, the other thing you can do, right, is you can just code in the model here a second texture entry. This is how you do. You just say no image empty quote, and then below that give it replaceable ID 1. And replaceable ID 1 means load the image. Instead of loading the image from a file, we're going to load the image from the game from a swapping replaceable image. So 1 is the solid square. It's like this icon we see right here next to player 1 red. It's the solid square of the player's color. And likewise, 2 is a glow of the player's color. It's like an image containing a glow, right? So you don't want to put a 2 here, but you could use that for other purposes. Once you do that and you have replaceable ID 1, you can add a second layer to this material, right? And you just go in here and say like, all right, layer again. And you put it in, you can do filter mode none. Basically, this filter mode setting, this defines whether, like we saw in my other example, whether you can see through the alpha portions or not, whether they're solid. So none means no alpha channels will be loaded at all. The texture is just rendered as is, completely solid. In this case, that's okay if we do that on the color, right? So here we're going to do a texture ID 1, and these texture IDs are just the index of these bitmap entries, right? So texture ID 0 is the ballista texture. Now that I've added one, and you could change this number, the number doesn't matter, it gets regenerated whenever you open the file. But in theory, right, you have 2 textures now, index 0 and index 1. You could even leave yourself a little note, right? This is index 0 and index 1. And as soon as you have that, then what I can say is that this layer that I'm adding underneath, so they're loaded top to bottom inside a material, right? So like this layer is loaded first and this one's loaded on top of that. And basically what I'm going to do then is I'm going to say that this top one is in none mode, meaning it's solid color. There's no transparency through the red. You look at like the footman, you think about how is the footman made, right? His shield is 2 images on top of each other. One is a solid red square and the other is a shield with a hole in it. And so in order to do that, we're going to say we're going to have solid And what's our texture? Texture 1, this red square, which is replaceable, so it's going to switch, if I'm player 2, it's going to be a blue square. And then on top of that, we keep our original layer, the ballista, and we say, okay, this ballista is here, but Magos doesn't give us the ability to see through it, right? You can't see through this ballista. So what you need to do here is put it in blend mode. And blend is saying then, basically that you can just see through the portions of it that are open. There's two different options, blend and transparent, that are very, very similar. But blend is generally the one you want to use for, sorry, I pushed Control Save. Apparently I just had a lot of unsaved files here. Anyway, blend is the one that you want to use for a model that is layering like two textures on top of each other like this, right? If you open the footman, you'd find the same thing, that the footman's going to have a blend mode layer on top of the red square team color layer. So now that I save this, and you remember this originally was the Magos one that had no team coloring, no ability to see through it. Now if I open this Ballista BLP Magos modify that we just modified, well, it looks like I broke it, and we know why I broke it, right? It's because I changed the texture name so that it wouldn't load in the world editor, because the world editor was using that absolutely terrible C::based path. As soon as I fix that, this loads great in Magos, right? And suddenly you can see that we have this red coloration. So this very small change that we made here of just adding a layer underneath and making that layer replaceable to red. And this is player color replaceable, right? So it can be blue, it can be red, it can be any of that. It's a very small change of adding a layer is all that you need to do. And so, yes, I can give you fancy software like this thing I was talking about that I made, where you right-click and say Add Team Color and whatever, and it adds it to what you have selected. But that's not necessary, right? All you need to know to do is to go into Notepad with your MDL file or any other text editor. And some of these text editors can even do like highlighting. You try to get, so you can actually see these things, and like try to open and close them or something, make it look nice. Use whatever program you want, but when you're using that program, you just do this, right? And this will give you what you want. So hopefully that's all you need right there, everything you need to know about adding team color. But yeah, if you have any issues, just let me know, I guess, and good luck. Happy modding.